All right, so in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to sketch the difference of two functions. So the word difference means we're going to subtract two functions. So we're given two functions here, y is equal to f of x and y is equal to g of x. And we want to sketch the graph of h of x, which is obtained by subtracting your g of x from your f of x. Okay, so like in my last lesson, the first thing you want to do is you want to pick some x values so that you can complete the rest of your table of values. So when you're picking your x values, you have to pay close attention to the domain of each of your given graphs. So if I'm starting with this graph right here, y is equal to f of x. Now that looks like a linear function. There's no breaks or no points of discontinuity. So that means all my x values are defined for this graph. But it's not the same case for y is equal to g of x. Notice that my graph starts at -2 and increases towards positive infinity. That means my domain is restricted only to this value. X is greater than or equal to -2. So when you're picking x values for your table of values, you need to pick x values that are defined for both of your graphs. So in other words, for this example, we're going to pick x values that are greater than -2. So going back to the table of values here, I'm going to pick a value at -2, -1, 0. I'll pick a point at 2, and finally at 7. So I know my numbers are kind of all over the place, but I want to pick numbers that I can actually read on each of my given graphs here. Okay, so starting with the graph y is equal to f of x. So we're working with the graph. It looks like a linear graph, okay? So you want to read points off that graph. When x is equal to -2, what is the corresponding y value? The y value looks like it's going to be 5. Same thing with -1. -1, what's the corresponding y value? Well, it looks like it's about 4.5. Okay, so let's keep going with the same procedure. At 0, my graph has a y value at 4. At 2, my y value is going to be 3. And at 7, my y value is going to be, looks like it's going to be about 0.5. Okay, so as best as you can, just approximate where necessary. Okay, so I'm going to erase this here. Now we're going to pick y values on the graph of y is equal to g of x. So we're looking at this red curve. So at -2, it looks like my y value is going to be 0. Okay, at -1, my y value is about 1. Okay, at 0, looks like my y value here, I'm going to erase that. Looks like my y value is at about 1.5. Okay, at 2, my y value is going to be +2. At 7, my y value is going to be, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong graph there. 7, it's going to be at about, looks like +3. Okay. All right, so once you have these y values written out in your table of values, we're going to find values for the graph of h of x. Remember, h of x was equal to f of x minus g of x. So I'm subtracting all my, oh, sorry about that, f of x minus g of x. I'm subtracting all my g of x values from my h of x, okay? So my table was conveniently set up here. F of x minus g of x is going to be equal to 5. So that's the first point right there. Let's keep going here. 4.5 minus 1 is going to give me a value of 3.5. Okay, 4 minus 1.5 is going to give me 2.5. All right, 3 minus 2 is going to give me +1. And finally, 0.5 minus 3 is going to give me a -0, sorry, not a 0, -2.5. Okay, so once we have those points written out in the table of values, we simply graph them. So the first point we're going to graph here is -2 and 5. Okay, so -2, 5 is right there. -1, 3.5, so right here. Okay, 0, 2.5, okay, which is about here. 2, +1, which is right there. Okay, almost done here. Finally, 7, negative 2.5. So 7, negative 2.5, which is right there. Okay? So as best as you can, you're going to connect these points. So your h of x should look something like this. So there's your given graph. All right? And that's how you sketch the difference of two functions.